The Movie Preview Critic. Informing and entertaining your movie world. This is MPN, your source for movie truth.
What's up, good movie lovers? As you've probably heard by now, Columbia Pictures is rebooting the Spider-Man franchise. Ah! Seriously, reviewing movies is just getting very stressful lately. The first response most of us had to this news was, really? Did I read that right? Maybe it said reshoot. Hold on a second. No, that's a B. Reboot. Reboot. StoryCorp isn't even trying to hide their blasphemous actions anymore, are they? It's like they're daring us to get mad at them, daring us to band together and proclaim, enough is enough. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna calm down a little bit and try to be objective about this. Let's put the emotions aside and try to understand the thinking here. It looks like Spider-Man 4 was moving forward. Alvin Sargent, the 83-year-old Oscar-winning screenwriter, mainly responsible for Spider-Man 2's character depth, was currently working on the latest draft of the screenplay, and initial special effects work was being done on the movie. But then, an argument between Sony Pictures and Sam Raimi took place. It seems that Sam wanted a villain known as the Vulture to be the main opponent in the fourth movie, but the studio wanted a bigger name that was more marketable. And that's the essence of the movie apocalypse. Profit over quality. Though I will admit, I've never heard of the Vulture within the Spider-Man universe, and I could see why Sony would be worried about investing $250 million and having the box office be dependent on this Vulture character. It also seems the studio is pushing for a subplot involving Black Cat and a third villain, which makes it sound just like the 90s Batman franchise. More villains means a better movie, right? After Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, we all know the answer is wrong. Very, very wrong. One developed villain, like Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight, wins every time over Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, Bane, and the kitchen sink. If anything, Sony should have rebooted Spider-Man 3. I would have had massive respect for them if they just came out and said, you know what folks, we f***ed that whole Venom thing up. I mean, Harry hitting his head and having temporary amnesia? What the hell was that? We're sorry about it and we're gonna make it up to you. The next Spider-Man movie will be Spider-Man 3.1. We're gonna do the Venom story right. And since we're on the subject of Spider-Man 3, apparently Raimi wanted to use this Vulture villain back then, but the studio wanted Venom because it was a newer character introduced in the 80s and therefore would be more recognizable and easily marketed. So after weeks of battling over characters, the project's life seemed to be fading. And then, the final straw broke the studio's back. It became clear that Spider-Man 4 would not meet its May 6, 2011 release date. Really? That's the ultimate reason Part 4's cinematic life was Dr. Kevorkian'd? Ah, jeez. Maybe these executives should be paying attention to a little movie released this past December called Avatar that's cleaning box office house. Is a release date really that important? And this kind of smells like bull, especially because the reboot has been set for 2012. If the May 6, 2011 date was so important, why not stay on schedule with this reboot? Which reveals the real reason for this change. Control, which leads to bigger profit. There's a little Oscar-contending movie out called Up in the Air, starring George Clooney. It deals with downsizing, the firing of people so that a corporation or business can save money. Before this reboot, Raimi, Maguire, and to a lesser degree, Dunst all had the power. They had helped make this property into a billion-dollar franchise, and like anyone who was part of a money-making success from the beginning, they want to be in on the action later, when the real paychecks come in. They want their cut. They were like employees with seniority, and traditionally, the longer you work somewhere, the more you get paid, which starts to cost the company more money. Who cares if you've invested your life? If they can find someone new to do the same job for half the cost, they're gonna make it happen. So George Clooney came in and fired Raimi, Maguire, and Dunst. Millions of dollars free, more points on the back end for the producers, and the budget just plummeted. But so did the quality and possibly the interest of the audience. But before we start proclaiming Raimi, Maguire, and Dunst as the holy trinity of the Spider-Man franchise, let's admit it, Spider-Man 3 was bad. And even during the press junket interviews with the stars, there was this attitude of, we're tired of making Spider-Man movies. And it kind of showed in the finished product. And unfortunately, that's just a normal progression of things in life. The more you do them, the more familiar and tired it gets. And as a result, it's less inspired and energetic. By just reading articles and watching news reports on Spider-Man 4, we'll never know the full story. Raimi has been in talks to do a World of Warcraft movie and another Evil Dead film, so maybe he felt those projects were more challenging and he just wanted to get Spider-Man 4 out of the way, possibly going out on a high note. Then there's Tobey Maguire. He's a family man now, and I've heard reports that he wanted shorter days on the set written into his contract so he could spend more time with his wife and child. Kirsten Dunst, I'm not really sure what's going on with her. I know she was in rehab a few years ago, but who knows if she can still project that Mary Jane sweetness. When it comes down to it, the Spider-Man property is way too profitable to lay dormant for another 5 to 10 years. And if a new movie can't be made with the talent that made it a hit, what are you to do if you're an executive? You get your public relations team together at midnight, have an all-night session, and figure out how you're going to spin the news of the reboot into something positive. Thankfully, we as an audience are smart and savvy and can smell the bullshit. It was inevitable that this day would arrive. Raimi and company couldn't make Spider-Man films forever, and just like life, a new generation would have to take over creating these stories just as a new one has to take over consuming them. It would have been nice, though, if this original crew had a final swan song worthy of the hard work and effort that they've put into this franchise. It's too soon for a reboot, but I guess that's the effect of the movie apocalypse these days. Profit waits for no one, and we the audience are in shock because it's like burying someone while they're still alive. Maguire and Dunst are still young, and they look like the characters. Raimi still has a lot of energy and creativity to direct another, but because of politics and economics, they're being pushed aside. Instead, we get Spider-Man in high school. Isn't that where he was in the first movie? Why does this seem like Smallville on the big screen? It's just another indicator at the true motivation of the studio, the teen market. Everyone who paid for and loved the first 3 movies has grown up. If you were in high school in 2002, you're in the real world workforce now. You have a job, a car payment, maybe a house, maybe you're married, and you're not going to spend $13 to see Spider-Man the Reboot in 3D. Studios want the demographic, and there's a new crop of teens with money to burn. They were too small to experience Spider-Man on the big screen the first time, so rebooting it allows them to feel like this version is going to be theirs. When I heard news of the Batman reboot in 2005, I was really skeptical and borderline angry. How could someone do better than Tim Burton? Well, for me at least, Christopher Nolan didn't necessarily do better, he just did different, and it worked really well, mainly because times have changed, we have changed, and as a result, we need the characters that represent these mythic themes to change as well. So while the term reboot makes me shiver, I have to keep an open mind. If Sony recruits some talented filmmakers with passion, I'd be excited to see this. But if the reboot is just big names, popular villains, and a slick marketing campaign, then Part 4, the reboot, is gonna make Part 3 look like The Godfather. Usually, a reboot organically, naturally happens within the life cycle of a genre or a franchise because the story, themes, and characters have been exhausted. This actually has its origins in the comic book world, so we should blame Marvel and DC because they're the ones that introduced the ideas of alternate universes and bizarro versions and time travels just to keep extending the run of their series. A comic book that comes out 2 or 3 times a month for 30 years can only go so far before it runs out of ideas and has to start recycling and combining and altering timelines and all that kind of stuff. And that's the frustrating thing. The Spider-Man movie franchise had so much to choose from still. There could have been so many more stories with this core group. And it makes us a little sad when we realize the truth, that it's not because the studio and filmmakers couldn't make Part 4, it's just that they didn't want to. Like a married couple that could have worked out their relationship but decided not to invest the time and energy in each other. Instead, they took the easy way out. This is absolutely movie apocalyptic news, which is kind of appropriate because the new release date for the film is 2012, supposedly the end of the world. I'm not a believer in this Mayan prophecy, But I do believe that if the story, characters, and audience aren't respected in this reboot, it will be the end of the Spider-Man cinematic franchise. If we were in charge at Sony and Columbia, of course we would want Spider-Man to stay alive at the movies. Again, it's made over $2.5 billion worldwide, not counting DVD and merchandise, which easily takes it over the $3 billion mark. So if you're behind the desk thinking of ways to make money, you have to try and extend this franchise's life. But we are not in that position. We are somewhere within that $3 billion. A movie ticket that we purchased. A Spider-Man t-shirt that we bought. We made this popular. We made it a hit. Like John Belushi proclaimed in Animal House, nothing is over until we decide it is. So as CW Spider-Man takes shape over the next few years, we'll be the ones to decide if Spider-Man gets to have another life on the big screen. Until next time, choose your movies wisely because StoryCorp gives us more of what we pay for, and as always,
Long live good movies!